evening. My name is Anthony. Tonight, I'm going to speak on three things: energy, communication, and motivation. I'm going to break down your operating system, the physics, and the biology. First, let's take a look at energy. And I don't mean caffeine energy. I mean the physics of your presence. We're going to look at the biology of your heart, the chemistry of your nervous system, and why people can literally feel you before you even speak. You have to fix the fuel source before you can optimize the machine. Next is communication. Once you have your energy right, how do you transmit it? I'm going to talk about influence, resonance, and how to control the temperature of a room, not just by what you say, but with who you are. And finally, motivation. Once you are aligned and connected, how do you keep moving? I'll discuss the science of drive and how to maintain momentum when the world tries to slow you down. Let's get started. The physics of your presence. We're talking about the invisible currency that runs your life, your relationships, your present, and your future. We're talking about energy. I want to start with the question, what gives you energy and what takes it away? Usually when we answer that, we think literally: sleep, food, coffee, exercise, or maybe a draining coworker. But today, I want to look at the physics and the biology behind that question. Because you're not just a biological being, you are an electrical one. Let's get down to the microscopic level. Your body is made up of atoms. As we know from basic physics, atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. But in the body, we deal largely with ions. These are atoms that have gained or lost an electron, giving them a positive or negative electrical charge. We think of food as fuel, but electrically speaking, ions like sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium are the raw power behind every beat of your heart. These minerals act as conductors of your body's orchestra. They are the reason your brain can send a high-speed signal to your finger to move instantly. They are attracted to one another. They pass through cell membranes, and they generate electricity. Every time you move your arm, it isn't magic. A thought in your mind generates an electrical impulse that travels down your nervous system at speeds of up to 260 miles per hour. It signals the release of chemicals that cause your muscle fibers to contract. You are a biological machine powered by self-generated electricity. The strongest source of bioelectricity is your heart. We tend to think of the brain as the boss, but electrically speaking, the heart is the generator, the power source. While the brain is busy firing neurons, the heart is outputting a signal of significantly higher magnitude. The heart generates a continuous series of electrical impulses in the sinoatrial node. The electrical amplitude of the heart is a signal about 60 times stronger than the electrical activity of the brain. Magnetically is where it gets staggering, with the heart producing a field that is approximately 5,000 times stronger than the brain's. But here's the part that blows people's minds. This energy extends beyond your skin. It permeates every cell in your body and radiates outside your body. The energy field generated by the heart flows up from the heart, out and down around the body, and back up through your feet, creating a continuous feedback loop. This isn't aura talk. This is biophysics. When you are standing next to someone, you are physically standing inside their electromagnetic field. Research from Heart Math Institute, along with independent biophysical researchers, have utilized superconducting quantum interference devices to map this magnetic field. These are the same ultra-sensitive devices used to detect subtle magnetic anomalies in geology and quantum computing. They found the field can be medically detected and measured up to 5 feet away from the human body. This isn't just a hum of static noise. It functions as a carrier wave that actively encodes biological information. Research suggests that the electromagnetic signals generated by your heart change based on your emotional state. When you are frustrated or afraid, you create incoherence, resulting in jagged, irregular heart rhythms that fill your magnetic field with static. But when you feel appreciation or love, that signal shifts into coherence, creating a smooth, wave-like trace in your magnetic field. This means that when you are standing next to someone, you are physically standing inside their electromagnetic field. Your nervous system acts as an antenna, detecting these electromagnetic changes in the environment. There is evidence of physiological synchronization between people. In studies where people touch or even sit in close proximity, the heartbeat signal of one person can be detected in the brainwaves of the other. You are broadcasting your internal state to the people around you, and their biology is receiving that signal before you even speak a word. Think about the implications of this transfer. When my heart beats, that electrical pulse creates a magnetic wave that travels through the area between us, and your brain processes my heart's rhythm. This phenomenon is known as entrainment. In physics, entrainment is when two oscillating systems fall into step with each other, like two pendulums, eventually swinging in perfect time. In social context, the person with the stronger, more coherent biological rhythm often pulls the other person into their frequency. If you are highly coherent, calm, focused, and emitting a smooth signal, you can literally stabilize the brainwaves of a stressed person standing next to you without saying a word. So, different emotions create different frequencies, which means your body puts out a different signal depending on how you feel. Let's look at a concrete example of how energy transmits through sweat. You know that saying, people can smell fear? This is factually backed by studies on chemosignals. There was a study conducted by Utrecht University in the Netherlands. Researchers collected sweat from men while they watched a scary movie, then the sweat from the same men while they exercised. They exposed women to the sweat samples while monitoring their facial expressions and eye movements. When the women smelled the fear sweat, their faces unconsciously adopted fear expressions, and their sensory intake increased. They went into alert mode. They literally caught the fear without knowing why. Conversely, the exercise sweat produced no emotional reaction. What you are feeling inside you leaks out of you, through your pores, through your energy field, influencing everyone around you. What creates these frequencies? What physically constructs the feelings of fear, love, or stress? It's the internal pharmacy of your brain and your nervous system. You're walking around with the most sophisticated chemical processing plant in existence. And every emotion you feel is simply a specific chemical signature connecting to your cells. Let's break down the ingredients that determine your energy. First, you have fear and anxiety. This is the work of the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal feedback loop. When you have a fearful thought, your amygdala signals the release of a cocktail of cortisol and adrenaline. This isn't just a feeling, it's a total physiological overhaul. Adrenaline causes your blood vessels to tighten and pushes blood into your muscles. Your blood actually thickens, so you won't bleed to death if you get bitten by a predator. Energy-wise, this puts you in survival mode. Your energy field constricts to protect your vital organs, and you emit a high frequency, a frantic signal that others perceive as edgy or unstable. Then there is stress. While fear, usually acute, stress is a prolonged, toxic bath of cortisol and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is the chemical of vigilance. It keeps your brain's background noise high, so you are always ready for threats. When cortisol remains in the system for too long, it actually becomes neurotoxic. It begins to degrade the part of the brain responsible for learning and memory, and it suppresses the immune system. Think of this as a leak in your battery. It keeps you agitated and alert, continuously draining your reserves until you burn out. Now, let's flip the switch and examine love and connection. The state is engineered by oxytocin. We often call it the cuddle hormone, but scientifically, it acts as a neuromodulator that physically inhibits the amygdala. It is the chemical antidote to fear. When oxytocin flows, it lowers the blood pressure. It reduces cortisol levels, essentially telling your nervous system the war is over. This creates a frequency of trust and openness. Because the survival constriction is gone, your energy field expands, allowing for that physiological synchronization we discussed earlier. Then we have excitement and drive. This is the domain of dopamine. Dopamine is often misunderstood as just pleasure, but is actually the chemical of anticipation and pursuit. It is the fuel of the motivation and reward pathway in your brain. It narrows your focus and heightens your cognitive abilities so you can achieve a goal. This energy raises your vibration and focuses your attention, making you feel magnetic and driven. And finally, we have contentment and stability, which is regulated by serotonin. Surprisingly, about 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, not your brain, highlighting the connection between your physical health and your energy. Serotonin regulates your mood, your social dominance, and your sleep. When it's in balance, you feel a sense of enoughness. It provides the shield that prevents negative energy from sticking to you, regulating your overall sense of well-being. Now that we understand the ingredients of our internal pharmacy, we can apply the principles of emotional intelligence to break our biological addictions, because this is where the real power lies. Most people are walking around as victims of their own chemistry. As a thought pops up, a chemical is released. They feel the emotion, and that emotion generates more of the same thoughts. It becomes a loop. When you have a stressful thought, your hypothalamus acts as a manufacturing plant. It assembles specific proteins called neuropeptides that correspond to that emotion. These chemical messengers are shot into your bloodstream and attached to the receptors of your cells, changing the physical state of the cell. Here's a scientific fact that can change everything. The 90-second rule. According to neuroanatomist Dr. Jill Boyd Taylor, when a person has a reaction to something in their environment, there is a 90-second chemical process that happens in your body. From the moment the trigger occurs, chemicals are released. They rush through your system, and then they are completely flushed out of your bloodstream in less than 90 seconds. This means that an emotional reaction, biologically speaking, only has a lifespan of 90 seconds. If you are still angry or stressed after those 90 seconds, it's because you have chosen to run that emotion on repeat. You are consciously or subconsciously, you are thinking about the same thoughts that re-trigger that hypothalamus to release a new batch of chemicals. You are hitting the replay button on the chemical dump. Let's look at a real-world example: getting cut off in traffic. Imagine you are driving and someone aggressively cuts you off. Your eyes see the car and your brain perceives a threat. Immediately, Your amygdala hijacks your brain and signals the release of adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate spikes, your hands grip the wheel tighter, and your vision tunnels. You feel what we know as road rage. Now the clock starts. For the next 90 seconds, you are under the influence of that drug. You are chemically angry. But what happens next is up to you. In the first scenario, you fall into the loop. You start thinking, look at this idiot. He almost caused an accident. People these days are so disrespectful. That thought signals your brain to release another dose of adrenaline. You have just extended that emotion. You can keep this going, ruining your morning and draining your energy, simply by re-stimulating the chemical release with your thoughts. In the second scenario, you exercise control. You feel the flush in the heat of the moment. You recognize it. You say to yourself, okay, that's just adrenaline. You don't need to attach a story to it. You breathe, you wait. Because you didn't add the fuel of the new thoughts, the chemicals metabolize and leave your system. By the time you hit the next stoplight, the energy is past. You are back in control. Emotional intelligence is not about never feeling emotion. It's about recognizing the chemical wave and choosing to interrupt that loop. When you identify the chemistry, you can detach from it. When you control the thought, you stop the signal to the gland that releases the chemical, and the emotion passes. That is how you master your energy. This leads us to the hard truth. We often ask, why do I keep attracting drama? Or, why can't I just be happy? The answer lies in the biology of addiction. Your body is incredibly adaptive to the environment you put it in. If you grew up in a chaotic household, or you spent the last 10 years in a high-stress job, your body has been marinating in a bath of cortisol and adrenaline. Biologically, your cells are smart. To handle the constant flow of stress chemicals, your cells modify their structure. They split and divide to create more receptors for cortisol and fewer receptors for the feel-good chemicals like serotonin. This becomes your new normal. This is called homeostasis. Your body defines normal as familiar. So if you are chemically addicted to stress, and suddenly you have a quiet, peaceful Sunday, your body goes into withdrawal. Your cells are literally starving for their cortisol fix. They send a signal to your brain that says, hey, it's too quiet, something is wrong, we need a hit. So what happens? You subconsciously pick a fight with your partner. You start worrying about a bill that isn't due for the next 2 weeks. You doom scroll on your phone. You unconsciously manufacture a crisis just to release the chemicals that your body is addicted to. You aren't just stressed. You are acting like a drug addict, seeking a fix from your own internal pharmacy. This is why people who grew up in chaos often sabotage healthy relationships. Peace and calm feel boring or even terrifying because their biology doesn't have the receptors to process it. So how do we break an addiction to your own biochemistry? It starts with understanding a concept called neuroplasticity and synaptic pruning. The old saying of neuroscience is, nerve cells that fire together wire together. But the opposite is true. Nerve cells that no longer fire together wire apart. To break the habit, you have to be willing to survive the withdrawal period. When you decide to stop being angry or stressed, and you choose to remain calm, your body will rebel. You will feel agitated. You will feel like you need to react. That discomfort is actually the evidence that the change is happening. This is the moment the old neural pathways are dying. You have to starve the old receptors. If you stop reacting with anger, eventually your own cells will realize they don't need those anger receptors anymore. As your cells regenerate and you make millions of new cells every minute, they will start stripping away the receptors for stress and building new receptors for oxytocin and dopamine. You have the ability to rebuild your body at a cellular level to be conducive to happiness. But you have to catch that thought before it becomes a chemical reaction. You have to be the observer. When the body screams for chaos, you have to use your mind to command peace. You have to prove to your body that you are safe without the armor of stress. It takes time. It takes repetition. But eventually, your new normal will come, and you will find that you are no longer compatible with the energy of stress and drama. Once you learn to control your own frequency, you gain the ability to influence the room. We have all felt this before. You walk into a room and you immediately feel a vibe, an energy to the room. Or maybe you meet someone and get a bad feeling. You feel a creep vibe. That isn't just intuition. That is your brain's amygdala picking up on incongruence. Incongruence happens when someone's words say, "I'm a nice guy," but their micro expressions and their electromagnetic field say, "I'm a creep." Your brain detects that mismatch in a millisecond. On the flip side, you meet someone who is charismatic and you feel lifted. You feel energized just by being near them. This happens largely because of a discovery made by neuroscientists at the University of Parma in Italy: mirror neurons. They found that specific neurons in the brain fire not only when you perform an action, but also when you watch someone else perform the same action. If you see someone smile, your brain lights up the same neural pathways as if you were smiling. This creates a sort of neural Wi-Fi. We are constantly, subconsciously mimicking the emotional state of those around us. So, apply this to your life. If you walk into a high-stakes negotiation or on a first date, and you have an internal energy of fear, the other person's mirror neurons will pick up on that. They will stimulate your anxiety in your own brain. They will feel uneasy. They won't know why, but the result is that they won't trust you. But if you walk in with high coherence, where your heart and mind are aligned, pumping out oxytocin and confidence, you literally change their physiology. In social settings, the person with the most coherent, dominant frequency controls the energy of the room. If you are dealing with an angry person, their frequency is jagged and chaotic. If you match their anger, you will both spiral. If you maintain a dominant frequency of calm, if you refuse to let your internal state shift, their mirror neurons have no choice but to lock onto your stability. You can calm an angry person simply by being the strongest vibrating force in the room. You are not just participating in the conversation. You can become the tuning fork that sets the tone for everyone else. This leads us to the final concept: attracting like energy, what many people call the law of attraction. The universe is powered by energy transfer. For example, energy is transferred through photosynthesis, electricity, gravity, and many other means. It creates connections based on resonance. In physics, resonance is when one vibrating object causes another object to vibrate at the same frequency. If you want to be wealthy, you cannot simply want money. Wanting implies you don't have it. Wanting is the energy of not having. It signals to your brain that you are without. The wealthy feel wealthy. You must feel wealthy. This isn't just some spiritual manifestation woo-woo. This is about the reticular activating system in your brain. Your RAS is a filter. If you feel poor and scared, your RAS filters the world to show you obstacles and threats to justify that feeling. But if you practice the feeling of abundance, if you generate the gratitude and confidence of a wealthy person before the money arrives, two shifts will occur. Biologically, you condition your body to clarity and confidence by flushing your system with dopamine and serotonin. And psychologically, your reticular activating system, RAS, opens up, allows you to see opportunities, partnerships, and paths that you were previously blind to. Imagine what it feels like to be wealthy. How is your posture? How deep is your voice? How do you treat people? Now, be that. This has nothing to do with buying a Rolex you can't afford. This is about the internal state of being. When you embody the energy of the person you want to become, you send a clear signal. Just like how ions are attracted to opposite charges and resonate with similar frequencies, your life will begin to organize itself around that new signal. Control your chemistry, control your frequency, control your life. Now that you understand the biology of your energy and the physics of your presence, we have to take that energy and actually apply it to people, which can be the hardest part. We've all been there. You have good intentions, you're in a good mood, but for some reason, you're just not connecting. The message isn't landing. So how do you actually speak so people listen? How do you handle conflict or negotiation without losing your cool? Let's talk about how to take what's inside you and learn to communicate it effectively. We begin with the physical baseline. The first rule of command is to speak and move slowly. In communication, speed can be a signal of anxiety. It betrays the lack of control. To command a room, you must first command your own tempo. You must cultivate the ability to be present. Most individuals reside mentally in the back of their head, listening to their own thoughts and rehearsing the next sentence. You must move your focus forward. Be in front of your eyes. Focus your eyes on the reality in front of you. Pay attention to exactly what is being said, not your interpretation of what is being said. This focus is the foundation for a stronger character. It supports integrity, optimism, curiosity, work ethic, empathy, and self-awareness. Without focus, these are just ideas. With focus, they become real actions. Once you are present, you must engage in empathy. Let's be clear on the definition. Empathy is not the same as sympathy. It isn't just feeling sorry for somebody. It is the ability to really put yourself in someone else's shoes. You need to understand exactly what they are thinking and feeling. You need to connect with what they are going through. To make this work, use steps. We'll call them FATE. F-A-T-E. F for focus. Block out distractions. A for authority. Stay calm and steady. T for tribe. Find a common ground. E for emotion. Acknowledge their feelings. However, a warning. This mechanism will fail without authenticity. You must speak and respond genuinely. Human beings are evolutionary experts at pattern recognition. People can instinctually spot the bullshit. If you try to fake empathy, the other person will feel uncomfortable and know something is wrong. Remember these rules. Where you speak from is who you speak to. If you speak from your ego, you speak to their ego. If you speak from the heart, you speak to their heart. If you speak from a place of deception, you invite deception. This brings us to the primary barrier in communication, the ego. Your ego twists reality. It has simple, desperate wants. Your ego wants to be seen, wants to be loved, wants to be admired, to be respected, and to be praised. When these needs are not met, your ego interprets the silence as an attack. Think about what happens in an argument. You respond with anger or spite. Why? Because your ego whispers, "You can't talk to me like that." Your ego screams, "They don't know who I am." The ego makes you react rather than respond. It seeks revenge. It convinces you that you must explain your side in every argument, that you must defend yourself against every slight. To reach the next level of communication, you must accept the difficult truth. You do not need to defend the truth. Facts do not require your defense. What is correct remains correct, whether someone acknowledges it or not. The need to convince someone is an insecurity, not a virtue. Let people be wrong. Stop trying to make people believe you are right. When you let go of the need to be right, you gain the ability to be calm, confident, and in control of your emotions. Let's look at the practical steps. How do we do this in real life? We follow a set of clear rules. Rule number 1, the breath. Take a breath before you speak. More importantly, take a breath when you feel emotion, defensiveness, or the fight or flight response kicking in. That breath breaks the link between the trigger and your response. Rule 2, logical communication. Communicate with logic, not emotion. Think about the answer before you say it. Rule 3, control the pacing. Speak with control and confidence. Speak slower, take small pauses. Silence is not empty space. It is a tool for emphasis. Rule 4, economy of words. Do not preface what you're going to say. Just say it. Eliminate fluff. Eliminate filler words. Learn to say more with fewer words. Brevity is the soul of authority. Speaking less shows authority. Rule 5, protecting the relationship. Understand that winning an argument often impacts that relationship negatively. Is the victory worth the damage? Don't throw insults back. If insulted, use silence. Do not acknowledge the insult with a response. Ask them to say it again. This forces them to hear the ugliness of their own words. Come to an agreement instead. Give them a way out with dignity. Don't trap a cat in a corner. If you corner someone, they'll be forced to defend themselves. Don't be the villain. Rule 6, integrity and justice. Be fair when communicating. Have difficult conversations, but have them at the right time. Timing is as important as the content. Rule 7, focus on what they hear. Focus in on what the other person is hearing, not just what you're saying. Ask yourself, what am I missing? Now let's switch from connecting with people to the rules of influence. These are the rules for dealing with authority, business, and competition. Your reputation and your image. You must build and defend your reputation. It is the one thing that matters, no matter where you go. Your reputation enters the room before you do, and it stays long after you leave. You lose money, you can earn it back. But if you ruin your name, it can take a lifetime to fix. Get noticed through your actions and take credit for your wins. In the business world, silence is not golden, it is invisible. If you're too quiet about your successes, people won't think you're humble. They will assume you don't know what you're doing. Make sure your name is attached to your hard work, because people believe what they can see. Put on a show. Humans are visual creatures. The way you dress, the way you stand, how you present your ideas matters just as much as the ideas themselves. Give people a symbol of competence to look at. Act boldly. If you hesitate, you look weak. People follow certainty. Even if you aren't 100% sure, move with purpose. Hesitation creates obstacles, but boldness breaks through them. Be confident. Don't be arrogant. There's a big difference. Confidence makes people feel safe. Arrogance makes people feel small. You want people to respect you, not resent you. Finally, make it look easy. Hide the sweat. Do the hard work behind closed doors. When you reveal the results, it should look natural, effortless, as if you were born to do it. Keeping secrets. Say what is necessary. Less is more. The more you speak, the more likely you are to say something foolish. Powerful people speak less. They use silence to make others uncomfortable, which often makes the other person start talking and revealing their own secrets. Don't show all your cards. There is no need to broadcast your next move. When you tell someone your plans, you invite judgment, criticism, or interference. Keep your goals to yourself until they are accomplished. There is power in mystery. Like a sponge, always absorb information and learn. You should always know more about the other person than they know about you. You cannot learn while your mouth is open. Let others do the talking while you gather the facts. Finally, be unpredictable. If people know exactly what you're going to do, you lose the advantage. If you are easy to read, you are easy to control. Keep people guessing. When they don't know what's coming next, they will treat you with more caution and respect. Managing others. Never try to look better than the boss. This is a dangerous mistake. If you make the boss look weak or foolish, they will not admire you. They will replace you. It is often better to work with people who challenge you rather than just friends. Friends often forgive your mistakes and get complacent because they like you. Your competition, however, have something to prove. The pressure they put on you will keep you sharp. Be smart about how you handle those against you. Bait your rivals by staying cool. Instead of arguing, just show what you know. Arguments waste energy and rarely change minds. Results are undeniable. Keep your composure at all times. When you stay calm, while everyone else is emotional, you hold all the power in the room. Make sure you are useful. Being liked is good, but being needed is better. If you bring real value and solve hard problems, you become indispensable. If they need you, you are safe. Make people feel comfortable and let them feel smart. There is no prize in proving you are the smartest person in the room. If you correct people or make them feel stupid, you create enemies. Sometimes the smartest move is to let them feel like they are in charge. Let them feel like the expert if it helps you reach your goal. Always show people what's in it for them. People act out of self-interest. Don't tell them why you want something. Tell them how it helps them. Once they see the benefit for themselves, they will help you. Understand what makes people tick, their needs, their weaknesses, and use it. Everyone has a gap in their armor. It's not about taking advantage of somebody. It's about knowing which buttons to push to make things happen. Finally, focus on your feelings. It's not just facts. Logic is not enough. Match the other person's mood. Build a connection. If they are excited, be excited. If they are serious, be serious. This mirrors their energy and subconsciously builds rapport, making them trust you. Crisis and change. Misery and complaining are contagious, so avoid them. Stay away from constant complainers. Their negativity spreads like a virus and brings everyone down. If you stay around them too long, you will start thinking like them. Protect your own energy. Don't isolate yourself. When things get tough, The natural instinct is to hide, but you must stay connected to the group to gather information. Remember, sometimes you have to lose the small battle today to win the war tomorrow. Your ego wants to win every argument. That's foolish. Letting someone have a small victory can make them feel good, which allows you to get what you really want later. Focus your energy on one thing. Rather than trying to do everything at once, diluted effort brings diluted results. Pick the most important target and put all your strength into it. Be flexible and keep growing. Reinvest in yourself. The world changes fast. If you stay stuck in your old ways, you become obsolete. Be like water. Adapt to the shape of the situation. Defend your reputation. It is the story people hear before you even meet them. But do not try to protect it by hiding. You must take responsibility for your actions. People respect the person who has the courage to handle difficult situations. Owning the hardest moments strengthens your character and builds trust. Create a culture and focus on inspiring the team. People work harder for something they believe in rather than they do for just a paycheck. Give them a cause to follow. Always think about the end before you begin. Don't take the first step until you know where you want to finish. Give people choices, but frame them carefully. Set it up so no matter which option they pick, the objective is met. People support what they help create. Always get the timing right. A good idea at the wrong time is a bad idea. Wait for the moment when people are ready to listen. Stop trouble as soon as it starts. A small fire is easy to put out, but a big fire destroys the house. When you make changes, go slowly. Sudden change creates resistance. People are creatures of habit. If you try to change too much at once, you will scare them. They will fight back to protect the old way. Introduce change step by step. Give them time to adjust to the new reality before you push further. Watch out for jealousy in others. It is the hidden enemy. When you succeed, not everyone is going to be happy for you. Be observant of the jealous ones. Know when to stop. Don't push your luck after a win. Arrogance creates enemies. Don't let greed ruin the victory. Accept the victory and let the dust settle. Finally, if you must fight a battle, win it completely, so the problem doesn't come back. If you leave an enemy or a problem half defeated, it will recover and seek revenge. Solve it once and solve it forever. Detect and defend. As you navigate your path, you must be able to detect deception. Liars use extreme words. Listen for absolutes, like always and never. Real life is rarely absolute. A liar uses these words to construct a fabricated reality. Liars repeat the question. If you ask a question and they repeat it back to you, they are buying processing time to construct a lie. But while you are watching them, remember that you cannot control them. You only control who you are. Control what you say and how you say it. Be quick to listen and slow to speak. We end with the mindset that holds all of this together. You must accept everything that comes your way. Fighting against reality only creates unnecessary stress. Stop judging others, because when you judge, you stop seeing clearly. Let go of the need to control everything. Remember that you can choose your actions, but you cannot control the outcomes. Be okay with the fact that the world is not perfect. Take responsibility for your feelings. Learn to pause instead of reacting instantly. Find joy in thinking less about yourself and more about others. Great communicators are not defined by vocabulary, but by the ability to connect emotionally, simplify complexity, and inspire action. To do this, you must master voice modulation and rhythm. In the absence of visuals, your voice is the only tool to project courage. Use cadence and metaphor, and language can be like music. You must build intimacy. Speak to a room full of people as if you were talking to a single friend in their living room. Use humor and storytelling to disarm them. Master the rhetorical pause. Do not rush. Allow your audience the silence they need to process heavy ideas before you move to the next point. Practice active listening. Focus entirely on the other person, validating their feelings to make them feel connected. Use vulnerability as a tool. Instead of presenting yourself as perfect, share your struggles. This authentic leadership disarms people and builds instant trust. Master simplicity. Do not just dump data. Wrap your information in a narrative. Drop the performer mask and show your humanity. Communicate with lyricism and grace, and always remember the ultimate summary of communication. People will forget what you say. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Your goal is to make these principles part of your daily life. Breathe. Slow down. Suppress the ego. Execute the strategy. And above all, make people feel. We've covered a lot of ground. You know how to manage your energy, and you know how to influence others. However, you can be the most charismatic person in the room, but if you don't have drive to execute, you're just another person with potential. How do you keep moving when the excitement fades and the real work begins? Let's be honest, maintaining that level of presence is exhausting. The world is heavy. It tries to slow you down. That's why we need to talk about motivation. And I don't mean listening to a song that hypes you up. I mean the biological science of drive. How do you build a system that keeps you moving forward even when you don't feel like it? Motivation, the courage to move forward. I want to talk about one piece of advice that almost everyone gives you, and why I believe it's fundamentally wrong if you want to be successful. They tell you, make sure you have something to fall back on. It's the safe, sensible advice if you want to be ordinary. If you are not courageous enough to take risks, you will not accomplish much in life. And that journey begins with an honest look in the mirror. One of the hardest things to do is to express yourself honestly and not lie to yourself. You need to honestly evaluate yourself. Where are you in life? Where do you want to be in life? Do not aimlessly go through life. Make a plan to get there. We often spend so much energy complaining about the difficulties and hardships in our lives. You absolutely must learn to convert that energy, those feelings of anxiety, stress, and worry, into energy that creates motivation and drive to achieve. Later in this episode, I will explain how anxiety, which some see as a disorder, can be your superpower. Now, let's talk about risk. You will fail at some point in your life. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will, without a doubt, suck at something. It's inevitable. And I know that's not the inspiring message you may want to hear, but I'm telling you, embrace it. The fear of failure keeps us small. It keeps us coloring inside the lines. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. Remember this. Fear is a teacher in the subject of life. Do not skip class. Failure is a professor in the subject of life. Do not skip a lesson. Think about the greats. In baseball, Home run champions typically hold the strikeout records, but you never hear about the strikeouts. You only hear about the home runs. Thomas Edison didn't discover the light bulb by accident. He conducted 1,000 failed experiments. He didn't quit on experiment 999. Why? Because every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You must take chances and recognize failure is simply information. Information you will use to achieve success in the future. My path was far from a straight line. Like many of you, I had to pivot multiple times and felt myself drifting without purpose. What followed wasn't a straight climb. It was a scattered search. I worked different jobs, trying to find my calling. I saw an opportunity and jumped into entrepreneurship, starting multiple businesses, had some mild success, just enough to give me a taste of victory. But ultimately, they all failed. I failed, and I failed again. But I did not quit. I did not fall back. Every shut door was just a lesson learned. You will eventually catch a break. Every setback, every failed business, every job I quit trying to find my way was just the price of admission for the next attempt. Do you have the guts to fail? If you do not fail, you are not trying. To get something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. This takes us to how we handle those difficulties, the problems. Whenever you face new problems, train your mind to immediately go to what is the solution. There will never be a time in your life where you do not have problems to deal with. By training your mind to immediately look for solutions, you eliminate the stress, anxiety, worrying, and concern feelings that problems cause. The problems now become puzzles and games you need to solve and win. Once your mind is trained to immediately think, what is the solution? The problems in your life become significantly easier to manage. You may even look forward to new problems in your life because they become challenges that you want to solve. And this newfound drive to solve problems becomes motivation to find the answer. Now, let's talk about success. Not luck, not the breaks, but the blueprint you must draw for yourself. The first non-negotiable rule of success is to have a vision. If you do not know where you're going, you will drift. You will become a passive passenger in your own life, and you'll never end up anywhere meaningful. You may not stumble upon your vision in a classroom or online. It might not be handed to you in a neatly printed job description. Through trying, your experiences, living life, failures, and searching is how you will find success. Do you know how incredible it feels to finally know your direction? The majority of people aimlessly drift through life, but when you have a goal, a vision, everything clicks. Every late night, every difficult challenge is simply a measurable step closer to turning a vision into reality. A goal will make work stop being a chore and start being a calling. You need to find that feeling, because when you finally have that purpose, the effort required to succeed becomes one of the greatest sources of joy you will experience. There is power in purposeful dreaming. Have a purpose. Have a vision. In every major step I've taken, I've heard the same things. That's impossible. That can't be done. Or just flat out no. When they say it's impossible, it motivates me. I'm a believer in the principle that everything is always impossible until someone does it. Say to yourself, I'm going to be the one to do it. The naysayers will always target your flaws, but what they see as a problem, you must learn to see as a unique advantage. You have a choice. You will spend your life trying to become a person you are not, or you will ask yourself this question: what unique, unexpected advantage is your biggest flaw actually giving you? The most successful people don't conquer their nature. They leverage it. They use it to their advantage. Let's look at the energy we talked about earlier, anxiety. Rather than viewing it as a disorder, see it as an evolutionary trait that, when harnessed, is a professional and personal advantage. It is often said that organizations like the FBI and the CIA value this trait in their agents for a reason. Anxiety is essentially a highly sensitive, future-focused early warning system. Anxious people are constantly scanning, preparing, and anticipating. When you understand how to use and control this heightened awareness, it transforms into a superpower. Learn to harness the superpower of anxiety. The key is control, not elimination. You do not get rid of the engine, you learn to steer and control its speed. By reframing your anxiety as preparation, focus, and diligence, you turn a source of inner conflict into an extraordinary source of power. What you call overthinking and worrying is in reality superior preparation and foresight. Instead of letting the anxious thought loop and spiral, use it to identify worst-case scenarios and develop tangible plans. This natural impulse forces you to be ready for any outcome. Your innate need for control is the foundation for strong execution and reliable follow-through. Channel this desire for order into creating effective routines and comprehensive checklists. The lesson is this: the weakness within you is often just unconverted energy of a unique strength. I want to give you a simple yet incredibly effective technique you can use the moment you feel your anxiety starting to take control. It's called a grounding technique, and it helps you bring your mind back to the present moment. The technique is to say 3 things out loud. If you find yourself in a situation where your anxiety is getting out of control, you need to deliberately interrupt that thought cycle. The easiest way to do this is by focusing on your surroundings. Look around you and identify at least 3 objects. Say those 3 objects out loud. For example, if you're in a room, you might say chair, table, door. If you're outside, you might say tree, road, grass. It sounds almost too simple, but there's a solid, factual reasoning behind why this works so quickly and effectively. When you are experiencing intense anxiety, your brain's amygdala, the alarm center, is highly active, triggering your fight or flight response. Your mind is trapped in a hypothetical fear loop. By focusing on naming objects around you, you are engaging a different part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the area responsible for higher order thinking, logic, and verbalization. This action forces your attention to your immediate sensory input, which is what you see and hear yourself say, instead of the internal anxious thoughts. The simple act of identifying and verbalizing requires just enough mental effort to interrupt the highly emotional, automatic anxiety loop, to bring your mind back to the present reality, pulling your focus away from the hypothetical worst-case scenarios your anxious mind is generating. This isn't just a distraction. It's a neurological reset button that shifts your brain's processing from the emotional, reactive state back to the logical, grounded state. Try practicing this technique next time your anxiety begins to rise. It is a powerful tool in controlling your anxiety. So remember to apply your energy until that flaw flips into an asset that others do not possess. Combining your unique advantages with commitment and consistency is how you achieve success. Commitment is the key to getting started, and embrace consistency to realize your full potential. The difference between wanting a great life and building one is found not in motivation, but in discipline. It starts with a simple, powerful command in your mind: seek discomfort. Your mind naturally seeks the path of least resistance. But if you want to achieve anything extraordinary, you have to find a way to make your mind enjoy difficult tasks. The best thing you can do is force yourself to a schedule. Write down a specific, measurable goal. Here's a simple example. Today, I'll run 1 hour, no matter what. This is not a suggestion. It is a contract. It is non-negotiable. You need to cultivate a way of understanding how to endure. You're not going to be passionate or obsessed with every single thing you must do. The ability to force yourself to do things you don't have a passion for, because you understand the long-term benefits, takes discipline. Discipline is the difference between ordinary and outstanding. The true breakthrough comes when you realize the benefit of a struggle that you choose yourself versus a struggle that life throws at you. Once you complete that difficult, self-imposed task, you gain confidence. You gain the knowledge that you overcome something that feels impossible. Remember, easy is a threat to progress. Hardship forces us to innovate and endure. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Do not confuse movement with progress. I want you to think about time. It is one resource none of us can recover. Imagine you're at the end of your life, and standing around the bedside are the ghosts of your unfulfilled potential. The ghosts tell a story of a life you never lived. The ghosts are sad, disappointed, and upset. I ask you today, how many of these ghosts are going to be around your bed when your time comes? Remember this thought, as it will serve as a constant motivating factor against not taking action. Remembering that you're going to die is an important tool for making big choices. All the external expectations, all the pride, and all the fear of embarrassment or failure just fall away in the face of death. Don't waste your time living a life you do not want. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. The measure of a successful life isn't just wealth, it's your impact. Here's the paradox of fulfillment. The most selfish thing you can do in this world is help someone else. Why is it selfish? Because the gratification, the goodness, the satisfaction that comes back to you from helping others is a success that can never be taken away from you. The world needs you. It needs your energy, your motivation, and your compassion. Whatever your gift is, your time, your talent, your passion, your skills, what are you going to do with what you have? It is your responsibility. You have to trust that your failures, the random skills, the bizarre detours will connect in your future. That trust will give you confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. Look in the mirror every morning and ask yourself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? When the answer is no for too many days in a row, then you know you need change. Never be discouraged. Never hold back. Give everything you've got. And when you fall throughout life, remember, move forward. Stay hungry. Stay foolish. Live your best life. Thanks for listening. Good night.